Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com. You get a little basketball, you get a little football, you get a little bit of winning. That is what we're all about at the good old FG. Make sure you sign up and become an MVP. What do you get with that MVP plan? You get everything we have to offer, except for baseball, except for football. Our baseball guy, we have our plans for that. Ray Flowers on the mission to help you win a title in 2026. Ray will be heard with Jeff Mans a little bit later on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Channel 87 on the dial, Elite Sports, 2 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you catch Jeff and Ray, Jeff Mans, Ray Flowers, talking a little bit of baseball, betting strategies, getting you ready for the season. Give me a follow at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports on X and Instagram, and also at Fensty, Fensty, in our Discord channels, our DFS NBA, our NBA betting. First thing, real talk here. You know, I like to bring a little real talk here and always appreciate hearing from you guys in the comment section. You ever have a stretch where you feel like you were on a very nice run? You know, you feel like you're hitting them out of the park every single day in life. And all of a sudden, one little thing happens, and then you go on a little bit of a slump. You have a few days where you just feel like the walls are sometimes caving in. Well, yours truly goes through that at times. The reason why I bring this up is to not get sympathy or anything like that. But when you feel like you got just so much coming at you at one time, and you can only control what you can control, and sometimes during those most anxious, the most overwhelming times, you just got to do what you do on a scary ride in an amusement park. Sometimes stop, call a little timeout, Zach Morris style from Saved by the Bell, and then just close your eyes and take a big, deep breath in and out, and it makes the anxiousness temporarily go away. At least it does for yours truly. I figured I'd give that kind of life advice right now because we all go through it. Let's face it. We all go through things at times. We're all human. It happens. Not every day could be Pleasantville. So you know what you do? You deal with it one at a time. You work it as a team. That's what the importance of teams are, not only in sports, but in life. A lot of lessons, and especially lessons we teach our kids in sports, apply to real life. A lot of the lessons I learned about being a good teammate, it applies when you stick together, better things happen. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate. What's going on, Adam? Great to see you and great to see everybody out there. That's the thing, though. I know that at this point, oh, where's the sports fence to give me a bet? You'll get it. But you know what? I'm a real person too, just like you are. Not a machine, I'm a man. And with that, we all go through things. We're all here together. That's what we do. But that's why sports is amazing, because sports is there for us every single night to be able to root for something, invest in something emotionally, and be able to hopefully come out a winner. Let's talk a little basketball before I welcome on Armando Marsal, because we got a little situation we got to talk about, and it's with the Golden State Warriors, because Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. We had Jimmy Butler in a alt-line rebound parlay last night. We had Bam Adebayo brought his boards down to 8. The Warriors had just been allowing so many rebounds, and that's something we can apply for their matchup tonight too, because they're back on the board once again. And in this 7-game DFS NBA slate that I will have a breakdown for you at FantasyGuru.com, and I'll go over some players of focus now. But the Golden State Warriors lose a very valuable player in Jimmy Butler. As far as I'm concerned, any chance they had of surprising some of the best of the Western Conference in the postseason just disappeared because of that, unless they make some kind of huge trade. But right now, the problem is they're stuck with what's the remains of their dynasty, and they're going to need a lot more than that. Now, let's talk about tonight, because the Warriors are actually going to be facing, in a very tough matchup, the Toronto Raptors. So they played last night, and Toronto's defense has been stellar, and they operate at a slower pace too. So that's going to be hard, but we got to find a point, because a lot of people are going to be thinking Steph Curry. Draymond Green was out. We'll see if he can play. Now, let's just say Draymond Green is out again, and now tonight we have to figure out who is going to get that production. I look at 3 players immediately, and especially if Draymond is out too. I look at Quentin Post. I think with both of those guys out now, the rebounding opportunities goes up. He has the post, pun intended, to himself. Moses Moody, who at this point, you got to think that he's going to be getting even more shots. The minutes are there with Moody. Is the ceiling there, though, like it is with Buddy Hield? Because here's the deal with Buddy Hield, because Buddy Hield is going to be the most sought-after person because when he's in there, he shoots, and they're going to need some offense. They've got offense, though. That's the thing. They're going to need some defense in there, and that's why, to me, I think they're better off having a Moody in there for an extended period of time. So that, to me, those are the 3 players that, especially if Green's in, then Post kind of splitting hairs in a little bit. Maybe you see a lot more of Post and Green on the court together. Green having to shift more to the 4 to help out a little bit. Also at the top of the arc too, top of the arc, the elbow rather near that point of the arc. So when it came to looking at that, I'll tell you this right now. Those are the 3 players that immediately come to mind that I think benefit from a production standpoint. And those are players that we can look at tonight. But it's going to be hard. If anything, I want to be able to attack the Raptors' second unit. And with that, I feel like going value against Toronto is probably the best way to go. We'll also have to see how the Warriors play this too. Oh, Greg, you want to push my buttons even more, Greg? I fell for the Ryan Rollins over on his rebound yesterday. Greg, I don't know if you're trolling me or anything like that, and if you are, you're about to get a very furious Fensty. I'll just tell you this right now. I wrote that up at fantasyguru.com. I wrote up the Ryan Rollins over on his rebounds. And Greg, if you're not trolling me at all and you just happen to by coincidence bet the same thing, then yeah, I feel your pain and we were probably dealing with the same thing. Here's the deal with the Ryan Rollins rebounding. That number, by the way, was great for us. Okay, the matchup was excellent. The number was great. I thought it was a perfect spot. I got a little bit worried when I saw all of a sudden Kevin Porter with the second unit. I don't know why. I just thought that where Ryan Rollins was going to get a good amount of those boards was going to be with the second unit, but having Kevin Porter there, it allows Ryan Rollins to be relieved a little bit more. Also, I think he was fighting a little bit of foul trouble at first, but that's no excuse. He really didn't have a good rhythm when it came to that rebounding. So you know what? I'll tell you this, Greg, you and I, we are together. I feel your pain because I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that Ryan Rollins did not go over. But we take the L and everything. So, yes, I was on the right. And you know what? I may go back to that at times. But this was when I was seeing Kevin Porter, because here's what happens sometimes. When you have 2 guys that are starting and they force that what should be the 6th man in the starting lineup, which, let's face it, with Milwaukee, they need all the offensive help that they can get. So when they have Porter and Rollins in the starting lineup, to me, what ends up happening is they splinter off for a little bit. And by the second quarter, we're seeing Rollins more often with that second unit. That's where he's going to grab rebounds. He doesn't have as much Giannis to deal with. Yes, he has Bobby Portis, but Bobby Portis stays on the outside. Sometimes he's very mobile, so he's not always inside. He gets a lot of rebounding chances, but he's not always in position, and that's where Ryan Rollins always seems to be hanging around. It's there. We weren't getting, by halftime, we had to have realized that it wasn't looking good. A lot of the rebounds were very divided, and unfortunately, we missed that one. Another thing that we missed last night is something I brought up a little bit ago, and that's we had the parlay of Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler was going to be shaky, a little bit shaky, but I saw him grab a rebound early before he went out, and then he tore his knee up. He tore his ACL. That happened last night, and his season is done, unfortunately, because it was early in the third quarter when that happened. We don't get, maybe some of you on some of the other books, but on FanDuel or DraftKings, that was not voided, so that counts as a loss, unfortunately. Bam did his part, but yes, Jimmy Butler tore that ACL, and that unfortunately ruined one of our parlays. And, I'll say this about Jimmy Butler. He's a freaking competitor. I love watching him out there. He just plays really good defense. And if I'm looking to teach someone how to play perimeter defense, I'll say go watch Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler in his prime, Paul George in his prime. Those guys play Kawhi. Those guys play some really good defense. And Jimmy Butler still does. Not as much Kawhi and Paul George, but Jimmy Butler still plays excellent defense, which is why this is a major, major loss for the Golden State Warriors from a reality standpoint, especially too. By the way, I think one of the things we can start to look at in fast-paced spots, not tonight, as you see here on the list of teams that operate at a slow pace. Toronto is one of those teams, and they play good defense. Now, they're still missing a couple of starters. They're missing Murray Boyles too, so they'll be a little bit more vulnerable. But Steph Curry assists is something, especially if Draymond Green's out. If Draymond Green's in, it's almost like we want him in because maybe there's a chance that both of those lines are a little bit low and we could get away with one. But I want to remind you that the Warriors can mess with their lineups, and they did play last night, obviously. So that's something I'm kind of on the lookout for at this point. So unfortunate with the Warriors, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And with Jimmy Butler, it's just very sad to see. So they now have a big decision to make. And I was actually talking a little bit in our Discord this morning with Mike the Beard, Mike Sillo, who is part of the NBA team at fantasyguru.com, and was debating whether or not maybe this is the time for Steve Kerr to extend the olive branch one more time and see if he and Jonathan Kuminga can make nice with each other. And Jonathan Kuminga comes in with some meaningful minutes, ample shooting opportunities. He can rebound and see what this guy has. And if the Warriors are smart, they would almost want to do that anyway to stud him out a little bit, because you got half the teams up and down the West Coast wanting Jonathan Kuminga. The Kings have been interested. I think the Suns have been interested. A lot of those West teams want Jonathan Kuminga. So it might be nice to stud him out a little bit, draw a little bit more interest, expand your market. So apparently their relationship is beyond repairable. And so because of that, they're probably just going to look to trade him. But this would be the perfect time for him to step in and see what he has to offer this team and see if he can help them out defensively a little bit too and be part of it. Steve Kerr at times, I felt, doesn't give some of his younger players that much wiggle room before determining whether or not they're going to be somewhat on the outskirts of the rotation or just shipping them off. Jonathan Kuminga has had time. I'm not saying he's this outstanding player. I think people are like, well, he hasn't played. He's gotten time before. But yes, Steve Kerr has kept him on a bit of a short leash. And there have been times where, while he's a very good shooter, there have also been times where he's taken low percentage shots too. So that's the thing. That's not like they're holding this premier forward on the bench at this point. It's just very surprising that they haven't been able to figure it out with him, because they can absolutely use him, use some fresh legs. And with no Jimmy Butler, he could come in. So I'm very interested. If for some reason we get the report that Jonathan Kuminga is now going to be a regular part of the rotation, forget everything I just said regarding Moody, Buddy Hield. Kuminga immediately becomes the player of focus with some of those guys on the side. But then if they trade him in the next 3 weeks or so, then those guys can start to benefit big time. So keep them on your radar, keep them for value at this point. The highest total on the board, this Minnesota-Utah game, we're going to want to sink our teeth into. And that's because it has, the fast pace attached to it for Minnesota, a very high total. Utah's not going to be able to defend them too well. And I think Minnesota's going to be able to really take it to them. And if we find out that Naz Reid is out, especially, pretty much the entire front court is very safe. When Naz Reid is in, he's going to probably take away from someone. And I include Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels becomes a lot more valuable. The ceiling rises on his production a little bit if Naz Reid sits. But that's the big question going in here. Will Naz Reid play in this game against Utah? I'm excited to see whether or not, I am going to have a few pieces of the Minnesota squad. Now, let's talk about the other side for a minute, because when looking at defensive rating over the last 10 games, I don't see Minnesota there. Minnesota's kind of in the middle of the pack, so you could get to them a little bit, meaning Keyonte George, to me, who's looked very good this year, is absolutely once again in play. And we're awaiting to see if Lauri Markkanen, who's sick, is going to be able to play. Keyonte George continues to be able to give us good value over his last 2 games. He's given us a strong 6 to 7x return. He's been scoring a lot. He's been shooting a lot. He should continue to shoot a lot in this game. And let's just look at Minnesota's pace. This is why, by the way, I take pace for the year and I actually bring it down to the last 10 games. I really do feel like it's more telling because if you look in the last 10 games, Minnesota has been operating at the 7th fastest pace. There's a reason why this total's so high. Their defense surprisingly isn't that good, but they're playing fast. So they're playing fast. Utah, ranking in the top 3 in pace, we got to be able to attack this matchup. This is obviously the game to stack. The question is where. We're going to have to see what happens here. Sensabaugh, not feeling well. They got a little bug going around there in Utah, and Lauri Markkanen. But as of right now, I mean, you got to be looking at Keyonte George here. And then someone else we can look at too. I'm waiting for us to see a little bit more. But every time I'm starting to expect the role to grow and grow and grow, he doesn't come through. And that's Isaiah Collier. Isaiah Collier is capable of putting up a ton of assists. But the production has been so inconsistent. And not only that, I don't know what it is. It's not, I can't even blame turnovers. They don't commit a lot to him. They probably want to keep him healthy. The Jazz are in a lot of double-digit games. But to me, they need to be giving this guy more minutes. Change the pace a little bit. And instead, they're capping him a lot of nights. Very hard to tell whether or not he's going to get 25 minutes. When he's 4K, 4-3, okay, that's nice. Then we're hoping for 20. When he's now at 54, 5,500, now I want to start to see some close to 30 minutes, flirting with 30 minutes, 28 to 30 minutes consistently. We're not seeing that. That's the problem there. Other Utah players that we can look at tonight in this match, because a lot of emphasis is going to be put on Minnesota. So this is where now me as a GPP player or thinker a little bit more comes into play. A lot of people are going to be on Minnesota for good reason. We're going to have to take our stand. Could be a Rudy Gobert night. Could absolutely. Jusuf Nurkic, who, let's talk about Jusuf Nurkic because you see him with a question mark. Now, Rudy Gobert, a few years ago, you couldn't attack the guy. Things have changed, though, with Rudy Gobert. You can get to him a little bit. But here's my problem. Jusuf Nurkic screwed the Elite Mafia 2 nights in a row. And I want to put an apology out there because I'm just someone, and this is again being part of the team, I don't ever want to step on anybody's toes. I don't. I put him last week. You probably all remember this, and this is why we talk about it. We talk about where we're going to fix our mistakes. I put, and this hasn't happened to me, I don't think in a couple of years. This maybe hasn't happened to me since I've started to work for Fantasy Guru 2.5 years ago. I put Jusuf Nurkic last week. The Jazz were on a back-to-back, and Markkanen was out. They had a few guys out. It was a great spot for Jusuf Nurkic. I believe they were against the Bulls, a team like that. He was active, and they didn't play him 1 minute. 0. No note, no anything. Utah, notorious for messing with lineups. No Nurkic. The next night, I see my colleague at fantasyguru.com, Scott Bonder, writing him up. And I had 2 trains of thoughts. I didn't want to step on his toes. I mean, who am I? He's done the research. He clearly thinks that what happened with Nurkic last night, atrocious. He thinks that it's going to be all Nurkic tonight. I thought about reaching out to him because I'm always wondering and looking at our other analysts, Serge Singh, Mike Sillo, who I mentioned, Brett Wojtkowski. I'm always interested in Armando Marsal, who's going to be joining me soon, in seeing what their line of thinking is. We don't come up with the cores together. Me and Armando meet up sometimes, and we talk about where we stand and everything. We play off each other a little bit. But when I saw Scott Bonder, who was on the write-up, when I saw him put Nurkic in there, I almost hit him up and was like, dude, I don't know if I can do that. He should be playing. He should. There's no reason why he shouldn't. After what the Jazz did, that messed up BS last night, I don't know if I'd go there. And I didn't say anything, and I regret it. And look, I could have looked like the idiot if I went to him being like, don't put him in your core, and then he ended up giving a 6 to 7x return. Then it's my fault. So I kind of just waited. And what happened? It happened again. So because of all this, when it comes to Jusuf Nurkic, for a while at least, I can't put him in cores anymore. I could suggest him. In this matchup. But man, when the Jazz are on some kind of back-to-back situation, we all have to be careful. And let's face it here, the Jazz tonight, with what we're looking at from them, they're on a back-to-back situation. So I don't know. That's my problem with Utah. And with Nurkic, he's the guy that I can't trust right now. Because if there's someone who's questionable and they're active, they can be active on the bench so the Jazz don't get fined. That's how messed up that was last week. The Jazz avoiding the fine. And for us who are DFS players, it's a nightmare of a situation. So that's one we're going to have to watch out for with the Jazz. Minnesota side, I'm all in. If the Jazz start ruling out like every one of their players, then we're going to have to rethink things and go for some of the cheaper guys, like the DiVincenzo's maybe. But for now, we're going to be looking at Rudy Gobert. We're going to be looking at Randle. Anthony Edwards, we should be able to be fine with too. And hopefully mark it in place so this game can stay somewhat competitive. But even when I see spreads that are deep, like even double-digit spreads, it doesn't always scare me off the game. It just doesn't. And this one has a 12.5-point spread. Doesn't always scare me off. So we're going to have to see how the Jazz play this because we got completely messed with last night. Let's talk about some of the other games that we're going to attack tonight besides Minnesota and Utah. I talked to you about Warriors value already. Miami, Sacramento, it's one of those things where all of a sudden we're seeing Sacramento play a little bit better. And a lot of people are going to be looking at the Miami side. Well, let's look at the Sacramento side for a minute because Miami did play last night. So the Heat playing at a very fast pace. The Kings, a little bit on the slower side this year. Russell Westbrook has been good. He has been very good. He's provided a 5x return in 5 straight games. And Miami is pretty ripe tonight, being that they played last night. And I feel like the Kings, who are just playing better, they're slowing teams down. They're providing better offense. They're playing more together. It's going to be great. But I'll say this, when it comes to Russell Westbrook, that's someone that I'm going to be writing up in the article tonight because proven success, it's been great. Miami giving up the scoring a little bit. No hero still in this matchup. And I just feel like Westbrook is safe on DraftKings, especially at 7,700. Now, can we say the same thing about his teammate, Domantas Sabonis? I'm hoping, and this is just hoping, that we get some kind of clue as to how many minutes he's going to play. We've seen him since returning to action. Remember, guys, he was out about 2 months. So they're not going to rush anything at this point. And are they really going to be able to compete down the stretch? I don't think so. But Sabonis has played 20 and 21 minutes. And even in this matchup, I'm going to need a little bit more than that. I am. I mean, you would think from a GPP mindset that maybe that Sabonis makes it. If it's 27 to 30 minutes, I could deal with that because we know he's going to produce. But I need to see more than 3 shots. I need to see him more involved. And so I kind of want to wait on that just a little bit. So I'm actually going to be fading Domantas Sabonis unless we get a note that says there is no limitation whatsoever. That's the only note that we can get at this point that changes my thought process on Domantas Sabonis tonight. That's it. Other games we can look to attack too. The Clippers and the Bulls. Now, anytime Chicago is on the stage, I love to attack them. And in this situation, we're going to have no Kawhi Leonard in this matchup tonight from everything I'm seeing, because again, he's dealing with a knee issue once again. So that's going to open things up a little bit more. I think Ivica Zubac is an excellent play. I was just talking about Westbrook at 7,700. Here's another 7K guy who has back-to-back double-doubles he's coming off of. The Bulls play fast. They've been hanging in the post a little bit better than they were a month and a half ago. But so what? We're going to get that pace advantage right there. Zubac is going to be able to get double-digit shots. There's a problem. James Harden is the biggest ball hog in the world if Zubac can't get 10 shots against the Bulls tonight. That doesn't mean we're not going to attack the Clippers on the other side, because on the other side, yeah, we can look at Nikola Vucevic, who another guy who's just been mega productive, although the price point is crept up a little bit more. Now he's in that 8K range. Not saying he can't succeed. He can, but Zubac has clamped down defensively. But someone else I think we can take advantage of too, and this is a reason why I think the Bulls haven't been as vulnerable in the post, even though you can attack them. Jalen Smith has been good. He's been very good. When he was drafted, I kind of remember seeing him. I believe he came out of Maryland. He a Terp. And when I saw him, when he first came up, I thought to myself, okay, here's a big body. He can move a little bit. Then he was on the Pacers, and he was just someone who was like always injured with some of those other Pacers guys. He was in a log jam of power forwards and centers. Now you put him on the Bulls here, and he has space to create now. I think the Bulls haven't been getting as much out of Matas Buzelis as they thought they would. So now they've opted for Jalen Smith a little bit more. We're seeing him play more minutes, and he's posted double-doubles in 3 straight games. And tonight, no Kawhi in the post. I think he can once again have a very strong performance. Now, he's priced up. He's not in the 5K range anymore. Now we're seeing him 6'3". So I still think in this type of matchup, because the Clippers defense isn't that great, I still think that Jalen Smith can hit us that 5X there, and he will be written up. I don't think his ceiling is unbelievably high, but I think going up against a Kawhi-less Clippers team, I'm a lot more confident there. And I can look up to see what the Clippers have done and allowed and everything like that. Here's the interesting thing with the Clippers. They are kind of middle of the road now when it comes to forward production. And that's a direct correlation right there over their last few games. So you can get to them just a little bit more now with Kawhi Leonard out of the mix. So that's why, to me, Jalen Smith is someone that we can continue to look to attack. Here are some of the other games that we can look. Philadelphia, the Suns just scare me, whether it's playing members of the Suns. They should have Jalen Green back tonight. It'll be interesting to see how many minutes he plays. If you guys remember when he came back from his first injury, he immediately came in and you saw him soak up all the usage. You saw him shoot a lot. You saw him just have a lot of time with the ball. I'm wondering if it's going to be that way in this matchup against Philly. Now, Philly is not going to be with Joel Embiid tonight, so their post is going to be pretty exposed. So I'm wondering, once again, if we're going to be able to look at someone like a Mark Williams here versus Andre Drummond. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Will Paul George play? That's a good question. But with Philadelphia and Phoenix, the big thing I'm going to be looking at here is to see what kind of minutes restriction we have for Jalen Green. Because Jalen Green at this point, it's going to be very risky. And these sites know exactly what to expect here with Jalen Green. So even looking at his price, he's already 7,300. That's the thing with him. He's already 7,300. I think tonight is one of those nights where we just kind of wait and see. And if we're not on the train, we're not on the train. But the Sixers play slow. It's going to be slow and methodical. The Sixers defense has been a little bit more vulnerable, but that doesn't necessarily mean we can't attack them. But when Jalen Green's in, it kind of makes me worried about all those other options, including Devin Booker, by the way, including Devin Booker. I'd rather maybe look at one of the utility guards for Philadelphia. I'd rather maybe look up someone like an Edgecombe and see if Paul George is once again out and Embiid is going to sit, then VJ becomes somebody that we can look at a little bit more. Tyrese Maxey is going to be tough. The Suns just have a bunch of really good defenders, reality defenders. That's what they have. strong wing defenders. They don't take fakes. They sit there. They're very disciplined in the post. They have a good center rotation, even though it's not really showing as much from an offensive standpoint. They know how to utilize their big bodies. There's a reason why I keep looking at the defensive rating charts, and the Suns are just quietly there at this point. That's a game that I'm standing clear of. Now, the Rockets and the Spurs, that to me is an interesting one, because that's another one that screams kind of stay away. And I'll say this, when it comes to both of these teams at more full strength, they're top 10 defensive rated teams. But we got to be able to get to them somehow. When I'm in a situation like this, two hyper-competitive teams, unless I see proven success, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go after their value guys. That's why. I'm not going to put in as big of an investment. Does that mean I'm necessarily benching Wemby tonight? No, I like it better with no Steven Adams, though. I'll tell you that much. But I immediately think what values in the second unit, in case one of these teams gets off to the races, what values in the second unit can help bolster these teams? Tonight, can that be a maybe Keldon Johnson type or whatnot? That's where I'm going to be looking at tonight to see how we can attack both of these teams. But we're going to find a way to attack them, but it's going to be a lot more value. So you see it right there, and you're going to be seeing more at fantasyguru.com. I'll have the article a little bit later today, and then I'll be in Discord from about 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, helping all of you set lineups. Let's flip it over to the football, though, and welcome in my guest this time, Armando Marsal, also part of the NBA team. What's going on, Armando? You think we have enough Nets on the slates we cover together?
Hey, what's up, Fensty? Happy to be here talking football and basketball with you, man. But yeah, it was last night's slate was a little wild one there. Today is a fun one. I think today's slate is going to be a fun one. But you know, the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, Fensty, that's been fun to watch so far, huh?
Oh, dude, it has been great. Most of the games have just been outstanding. This is how playoff games should be. And when you see those games that are like 30-6, that's a regular, like when I'm seeing constant close games, that's how a postseason should be. I think it's been one of the best postseasons we've seen if you look at the last decade. And what's great about it too, Armando, is newer teams are in it. So we're not seeing the same song and dance anymore. I know the Patriots had their reign, and we hadn't really seen them. Now we're seeing the Patriots once again. So while we're talking about playoffs a little bit, Armando, how you feeling about these conference championship games? Who do you think's coming out on top?
I mean, I'm excited to watch both of these games. The Rams, Seahawks, that should be a phenomenal matchup there. Look, man, the Seahawks, their defense is really good. But this Rams offense is clicking on all cylinders. They're a very good offense. They also have pretty good defense. I'm going to take the Rams here. I think the Rams go on and win this, and they will be in the Super Bowl this season. And then, look, I hate to see what happened to Bo Nix this weekend because, you know, you wanted to see kind of that, you know, fair chance against New England. I still had New England going regardless, but I do think this increases their chances here a little bit more. So this is a team that when you look at it, it's well coached. Offensively, they're very good. Defensively, they're very good. Like, it's a well-rounded team here. I mean, they just check off pretty much every box. So I think New England is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this season.
So when Bo Nix hurt himself, you tell me if it because you know you could tell that Sean Payton didn't say exactly what happened. He just kept saying the second to last play of overtime. The second to last play of overtime was him kneeling. He fractured his ankle while kneeling, right? Is that what we can all ascertain, or do you think it happened before that?
It must have happened before that, right? Like it had to. I don't see how it happens kneeling. I mean, you have to be kneeling with a lot of pressure, right? Like
because he turned and then it was weird, man. I'm not saying, I knew something was up. It was weird. He turned and then he kneeled. And I'm like, I kept going back to that play. Regardless, Jared Stidham now has to carry this team to potential over New England. I'm with you, man. I was kind of going New England anyway. But now just seeing what this team has become and seeing all the threats that they have, it's great to see a team rebuild like they have. And now with Drake May being who he is, having because here's the thing. It's kind of like Mahomes in a way. Like he's got someone like Diggs, who we know a phenomenal receiver, but he gets his other guys involved too.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. So it almost like is like you don't know who he's going to go to.
Yeah, he spreads the ball out really like a lot in this offense. Yes, you got Hunter Henry, you got Kayshon Boutte. Like you have so many different guys that they go to here. Demaris Douglas, we've seen involved too. Like everyone gets involved. They have pass catchers out of the backfield with Stevenson and Henderson, two guys that can catch pass in the backfield. So it's a well-rounded offense is what it is, and he uses each and every one of his guys. So yes, you have a really strong receiver like Stephon Diggs, like you mentioned, but he's not necessarily having a monster year, and this is why they're doing it. It's just an overall team effort here, man. And I cannot say more great things about Drake, man. He's been phenomenal this season. I mean, talk about a great year 2 there. So just happy to see him elevate here to this level.
Jarrett Stidham was drafted by the Patriots.
I believe so. Yes, I believe
so. Imagine that, Jarrett Stidham drafted by the Patriots and then takes him out on a start. He hasn't started in a couple of years and just is able to imagine that storyline. Oh, journalists everywhere could take the vacation when you've got a story like that if that were to happen. You're wearing your Miami Dolphins gear, so let's talk about the hire here. Jeff Hafley. Now, let's talk about timing a little bit because we find out that McDermott is done. And this is maybe a couple of hours before the signing of Hafley became official. So I got to ask you, they take Hafley from the Packers. Do you like this signing and this hire rather?
Do I like it? No. Am I surprised? No. There's connections there with obviously John Eric Sullivan, who is the GM now. With John, Sullivan spent a lot of time in Green Bay. He's Miami's GM now. So not surprised they made this move. I personally would have liked to wait around. There was a lot of notable coaches out there. I know we obviously know Harbaugh to Giants, but you have other guys out there that you can kind of wait and take that wait and see approach. Someone like McDermott become available. I'm pretty sure that deal was already done, in Miami. So that I don't think you can back out of a deal like that for McDermott. But I'll tell you this, I would have waited around because I did anticipate, and I don't agree with it, but I did anticipate if McDermott lost, he was probably going to be on the hot seat. Because this was one of those windows where there was no Mahomes. And I think, a lot of people know there was no Mahomes in the postseason. Lamar Jackson was not in the postseason. Joe Burrow was in the postseason. Like these are quarterbacks that next year are probably going to be there. So easier path for Josh Allen. So I don't like this for Miami. He's a defensive minded coach. I guess they're going to go back to those roots. This is a team that we've seen, with Brian Flores here, who's a defensive minded coach. McDaniel, offensive minded coach, didn't really work out here. So not surprised at all, Fensty. I'm not happy about it, not excited about it. I think you needed a coach with a lot more experience here, given the the status of this team and the future outlook. So let's see what happens.
What about Rob Saleh going to the Titans here? I wonder if Rob Saleh, there's just some guys that are better as coordinators than coaches. And even like a Spags, like a Steve Spagnuolo, like he's better as a coordinator. I kind of feel this way about Robert Saleh because now he's joining a Titans team that what you can't really expect this team to be good and turn things around inside 3 years. I'm sorry, you just can't.
I agree 100% with you. Like I looked at this signing and it just didn't, make sense for me. You look at his record as a head coach, he's 20-36. I know he was dealt a bad hand with the Jets, but he's not dealt a good hand here in Tennessee, right? Like this is not the greatest hand. Cam Ward, yes, kind of started showing flashes or, kind of started showing some potential towards the end of the season, but this is still a team with a lot of deficiencies. I don't know if Saleh is the answer. I don't know if he's going to be able to turn things around. But I agree with you. I think he's better suited for a coordinator. He's been very successful in that, department. And I think that's kind of where his bread and butter is. We've seen this time and time again. We see with McDaniel, who the offensive coordinator in New England, like he's tried the head coach's, gig, not great at it. But you look at the coordinator, man, he's one of the best in the business. So let's see what happens here in Tennessee. You look at what they've done, right? Like look at they let go of Vrabel. It was a messy, breakup. Look at Vrabel now, So right. This is why, I look at some of these franchises. We talked about Miami now, Tennessee. I feel like some of these franchises, they just continue to make bad decisions. That's why they are, the way they are right now. So New England, look how quickly they turn things around. So
with Buffalo, man, I mean, I don't know why, but like you think like Belichick can walk into like a situation like that, and it's like, you know, a full team and everything like that. And it's like, I was thinking about it because I feel like Miami used to be back in the late 90s, early 2000s, a major selling point, no state income tax, the great weather. But I feel like it's so messy down there. Like Hafley, he's got 3 or 4 years ahead of him too, until you really think that they're going to, maybe 2 to 3 for him, because they've got a couple of pieces and they're going to have to figure a few things out. They're going to have to figure out their quarterback situation. But it's Miami's just like not that selling point. Otherwise, you'd say you'd try to go all in on a proven coach like Belichick. But Buffalo, they've got the team around them. They've got the quarterback. It would just be like a Cinderella glass shoe fitting type of deal for me.
Yeah, the thing is, does Bill Belichick still have it, right?
Right.
Like towards the end, like when and this is now different, like you said, like now he has the pieces, he has Josh Allen, and I think that's what he was missing towards the end of New England, right? That piece. And at college, he didn't look good as college coach either. I'll be honest with you. That's the question. Does he still have it? For me, yes, I do think you want, though, a reputable coach, right? Like you definitely don't want to try new things here with this, with this team. So I'm interested to see what happens here. I think someone with experience is a must. I don't want to say Mike Tomlin, but you think about it, like he's someone that has experience. Obviously, there's with the issue that he still has ties with Steelers, and you have to kind of figure that out. So you're gonna have to
trade him essentially.
Correct. They're gonna have to give up probably like a draft pick or so. I don't even know how that would work, but probably a draft pick or something, or some type of incentive, money incentive or something. But yeah, he's someone that would make sense for me if you're looking for someone with experience. Yeah. They're talking about Brian. I think Brian Florence was linked to them too, right?
Yeah. Yep. Man,
that's
last couple of years, a lot of intriguing candidates out there. Yeah. It's definitely good to see. And it's good to see some switches too, like Harbaugh now not with the Ravens. That's like the first time since 2007. I think I read somewhere that when Harbaugh was hired, the iPhone wasn't even out yet. It was
really,
it was like months before the iPhone came out. And so it was like what BlackBerry City at that point, Blackjacks and Blackberries. Armando, let's talk a little about tight ends. Before I do that, though, why don't you tell everybody what you still have from the football side of things going on the website?
Yeah, we still got our weekly staff picks. I got the DFS breakdown and the Mind the Marsal podcast each and every week. That's still going there over at fantasyguru.com.
So Armando at Armando_Marsal on X. Let's talk some tight ends here, and let's start with Trey McBride. Just to kind of review, we did some running backs last week. Check out previous episodes of Fantasy Sports Daily. We've got them all for you, all 575 at this point. Trey McBride, because the big question is, do you draft the tight end in the second round? Because last year, in the final month of drafting, he was going right outside the second round. Now, Brock Bowers was going inside the second round. Trey McBride right outside. This is a guy who they're going to have to figure out their quarterback situations. They owe Kyler Murray a lot of money. They've got Jacoby Brissett under contract for 1 more year. And the big thing is we saw the touchdowns, which were what was missing from his game. He had 11 of them here in 2025. This guy is a 100-plus target monster. We know that the yardage will be there. We know that the catches will be there. But now he has that touchdown piece. How do you feel about him going into 2026, especially with, I guess, the quarterback situation still a little up in the air and undecided?
Well, we saw this year that the quarterback situation didn't matter all that much for McBride. Jacoby Brissett, no problem. I think that I've never been one, Fensty, personally, I've never been one to draft tight ends within the top 2 rounds. It's just not my style of drafting. I totally understand, and I will not talk anyone off of it. I would probably, I haven't done my rankings for next year yet or anything like that, but there's a good chance he's going to be inside my top 24 overall. So he's just a high-end producer. I look at him as a wide receiver, really. Like that's the kind of production you're getting from him on a week-to-week basis. He's someone that you can, flex easily. So for me, yes, he is worthy of a top 24 pick and consideration. Am I going to do it myself? Probably not, just because I don't want to say don't value the position as much, but I look at it as I can still get production at this position later in the draft. and I'm building a stronger foundation in a position like the running back and receiver where I'm starting more than one.
So in my opinion here for Trey McBride, if you want to go after him, I feel like you have a better chance of getting a little bit of a value in auctions than you would in snake drafts. Here's what I would do if you want Trey McBride. You put him out there, and you're going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but we've seen it. We've seen this guy. He gets targeted over 100 times. He stays healthy. He's proven. Put him out there because this is a $20 player. You can't just look at him as a tight end. You got to look at him as a top target. Put him out there for about $18 or $17. Someone raises you to 18, raise them up to 19, and you'll see some hesitation there getting into the 20s. But you have to start the bidding there, and you can't let the bidding momentum build when it comes to a Trey McBride. That's how you scare off 3/4 of your league mates right there, and then hopefully not in too big of a bidding war. Because Armando, like you, I'm sitting there early second round, mid-second round. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, look, he was a top 10 player in PPR scoring among flex players, right? We're not including quarterbacks here. Top 10 player. He could be a top 24 player again next year. Like, that is the kind of production you're going to get from him. But like you, like I'm in the second round, and I'm looking at some of these receivers, some of these running backs that are still there. I'm like, I can't, I can't do it. But I understand, and I don't think it's a bad way to draft by any means. So I do want to be clear about that. I definitely think he should be the top tight end taken off the board next year. I think you make a case for him, Bowers, but for me, I'm going to continue to go McBride here. But yeah, I just can't do it in the second round myself.
Do you anticipate us getting even in 12 teamers PPR 1 round drop off for Bowers, considering he played 12 games last year, or we saw what this guy can do? You don't think that people will be a little bit scared off from the previous season, and you'd think that you'd have to probably pay late second round value for him once again?
No, I don't think people are going to be scared off here. Fensty, you look at these numbers here. He actually scored more touchdowns in fewer games last season than he did as a rookie, right? He just didn't get the, obviously the receptions and the yardage because he missed 5 games. But if you look at PPR points per opportunity, he actually produced at a higher level in that department this season. So I think I think you're going to see a lot of like 1A, 1B. I don't necessarily think that just because McBride, had the year he had, he's going to supplant Bowers as number 1. I think there's going to be some people that are still willing to take Bowers number 1. But if you do get that discount, that's another reason. I do think you could potentially get Bowers in the 3rd, maybe 4th round. And I do think you'll get him at a slight discount in auction. So I don't mind taking the discount there. But I don't necessarily think people are going to be frightened of Bowers this year.
They don't have a lot of weapons at this point. They don't. They had Myers. They got rid of him. So it's really at this point, Genty and Bowers. So you have to feel like there has to be – and look, with the Raiders that are still on the rebuild, they're going to be throwing a lot of games too. So there's going to be that too. We've seen it already. They still have Geno. 6 touchdowns in 12 games. That was astute of Armando to mention the average. And this is why you've got to look at these things, average and also total points. But the average, as long as you realize what the sample size is, tells a little bit of a bigger story than the total points do. That's why you follow Armando Marsal at Armando_Marsal on X. This moves us to a few tight ends where you don't have to pay anything when it came to drafting them last year. You're probably picking these guys up, and you found gold mines here. And let's start with someone who, when it seems like the fantasy industry believes in him, he fails miserably. And then when everyone kind of forgets he exists, even with 2 quarterbacks, he finds ways to succeed. We saw especially Drake London go down late in the season, and Kyle Pitts ends up with nearly 1,000 yards, 88 catches, 5 touchdowns. Just when you think we're out, he pulls us back in.
Fensty, I mean, look, am I surprised this happened? No. Because we knew this talent was there. It just never surfaced. It just never came to life. It never, came to fruition. I think that, having Drake London out, I think definitely helped the case here. But this is the kind of potential he had. He finished with career best just, across the board, basically, in targets and receptions, not yards, but touchdowns. So someone who, that kind of production is not surprising. I was not on him. I gave up as well. I was one of those that waved the white flag. I'm like, I'm not going to get suckered into this one again. And you know what? I wish I would have. I really wish I would have. Fensty. Great to see it. I think, his stock is going to increase next year. I think you're going to have to pay a little bit more of a price tag than you did this past season.
You mean he's going to be more than a 15th round value?
Yeah, maybe, right? But you know what? I'm staying away. If the price gets too high.
All right, we're going to play stock market for a second, okay?
All right,
so
let's do it.
12-team PPR, you start 3 wide receivers in this league. Do you draft him if you see him going in the 7th round?
I think that's a very fair round for him. I probably would, depending on what other tight ends are available, right? And how many teams have tight ends. I don't think he drops to the 7th. But yes, I think that's a fair price for him, 100%.
Because here's the thing. When you've got him where I'm kind of seeing him going, here's the thing. With Dalton Kincaid, I can see him going around Dalton Kincaid, and you'd think that they'd go a little bit later. Because here's the thing with Dalton Kincaid, and we can talk about him. He doesn't always see the field a lot, but he's kind of like the NBA equivalent to Keldon Johnson. When he's out there, he's shooting the ball. You're getting some shots. And he's not out there to just set screens and to play deep. He's out there to shoot. You know that when Dalton Kincaid is out there, that Josh Allen's going to start looking for him just a little bit. Now, we could talk about Dalton Kincaid missing games. He played 12 last season. But let me ask you this, Armando. Do you see that maybe a Dalton Kincaid going around a Kyle Pitts in that 7th, 8th round area? Or do you think maybe we'd be able to get them a little bit later?
I think a Kincaid would probably go a little bit later than Kyle Pitts going into this season. We know like a lot, and I'm not saying everyone, but we see it a lot, right? Where most people kind of flock to last year's production. So I do expect, Pitts' price to be a little bit higher than Kincaid this season. Kincaid, man, very touchdown reliant, like very dependable on touchdowns here. And the injury factor, right? And the fact that he's on the field a lot, and the fact that they spread the ball in Buffalo. I think there are a lot of things going against Kincaid. I think you're going to be getting him at a bigger discount than you anticipate this upcoming year. Do you have any ADP in front of you right now? Are you looking at ADP or no?
No, I have last year's right now, but no, not this year so far. No, I think they got to wait. I think if anything, we got to wait to see who's brought in, see what the coaching style is going to be.
Correct.
Or see if they're going to involve, it's going to be like a Arthur Smith love fest to the tight end or something like that. I think Correct. That's what we're waiting to see here. Let's move on and talk about Jake Ferguson, because this was the 10th round guy, or what I call the 10th man. There's always a tight end you can draft, and it's Jake Ferguson a decent amount, actually, where you draft him in the tight end, you know what you're going to get, the floor is going to be safe. And Jake Ferguson, who was a 10th round guy, caught 82 passes. And this is a team, by the way, that was utilizing a strong rushing attack in Dallas, but also spreading the ball to guys like Lamb and Pickens. You still saw Ferguson catch 82 balls.
Yeah, I was not surprised about this at all, man. Ferguson was someone I had pretty high on my board going into the year. I really liked, the fact that Dak Prescott was, returning healthy. And I think that's really what set off Jake Ferguson the previous year, right? Because we know that his role with Prescott healthy is a significant one. We know his role has been solidified. We see over he's 17% target share in 2023. He finished tight end 9 that season in PPR scoring. Then 2024, he had a 17% target share again, but Prescott got hurt. All right, so he finished tight end 26. Prescott stays healthy again, 70% target share. Guess what? Top 5 tight end in PPR scoring. I think so long as Prescott is healthy, Ferguson's going to continue to produce high numbers each and every season in this offense. He's a go-to guy for Prescott. He's someone that has a solidified role in the red zone. I don't see that changing here. We even saw it this year. They added a different piece in George Pickens, who had a phenomenal season alongside CeeDee Lamb, right? And that didn't impact someone like Jake Ferguson here. So for me, Jake Ferguson, I think you were getting him at a great discount last season. Don't expect him to go as cheap as you were getting him. But I do think that if Pitts is going earlier than Ferguson, I would wait on Ferguson and just maybe take him in that following round. So like that would be one of those examples of depending on who's out there, if I'm drafting pitch or not.
I think Jake Ferguson, you're looking at 8th, 9th round value. He was a 10th round guy last time, maybe in certain leagues 11th. And these are 12-team leagues I'm talking about for the standard. But I'll just say this, 8th, 9th round, I'm going to have multiple shares of this guy.
Yep.
That offense is prolific. They could it's very high octane, and it can handle very target heavy receivers and Jake Ferguson still having himself a role. I question this though about my next guy, and I love this guy, but I just start to wonder if we're going to see more of Higgins in Houston and next year Kirk. I mean, they had a few injury issues. Dalton Schultz caught 82 balls as well. Like, let's not forget about that. A few touchdowns and that's it. But there are a lot of mouths to feed in Houston. And you're talking about Nico Collins, Kirk. You got Higgins, Noel, if they decide to utilize him as a receiver more than special teams. I mean, there's a lot there. And they always, it seemed like, had a guy who was hurt. How do you feel about Dalton Schultz? Do you even think that he's a tight end 1, even 12 or 13 going into next year?
I think he's going to be a floor play. Like if you're looking for your 8 to 12 fantasy points in PPR scoring on a week-to-week basis, I think that's really what you're going to get here. I don't anticipate. So he had a 19% target share this season. Coming the season before, he had 16% and 17%, 19%, 16%. So 19% twice in his career. In each of those years, he's finished, as a top 10 tight end. So he can produce when he's getting the ball. But like you mentioned, I think we're going to see Higgins more involved in the second season, right? We're going to see Noel, in my opinion, more involved in the second season. No one knows the future of Tank though yet. There's so many different pieces here, right? And it's also a team that has a very good defense. Like that's why they thrive so much. So they don't have to pass a ton. Only one football to go around. No, I'm not going to prioritize. I'm not going to chase the top 10 season out of Schultz, but he's someone that late in my drafts, if I'm there and I'm looking for a tight end and I just want production, he's someone that I'm going to go in and kind of gravitate towards. But I understand it's just a floor play, and I don't see him as a significant ceiling type of tight end where, he truly has that top 3, top 4 potential.
No, someone goes down, they lose 2 options. Then we start considering this guy off of waivers. That's how it's going to have to be with him. And then finally, and I got to give our guy Jeff Mans a little bit of credit because I remember listening to him right around week 1, and we didn't know what the hell to do with the Saints outside of really Chris Olave, and that's it. But he started talking about, from the DFS standpoint, Juwan Johnson. And at the time, Taysom Hill was still hurt. And it made sense. You've seen this guy come through before. Now we go to the end of the season and you're seeing Tyler Shuck prove that he could play. Juwan Johnson was someone who, did he always get a ton of targets? No, but he always, it seemed like, made an impact and always made him count. So I got to ask you this, man. Any interest? You miss all of your targets in your 12-team, 16-round leagues. You miss everybody. You're in that Dalton Schultz territory. You see Juwan Johnson. You look at him late.
Absolutely. I mean, he's someone that, you mentioned it, really didn't get a ton of opportunities, early on in his career. You look at, just the numbers, let's just go back to 2023. We'll go a couple years back. 59 targets, 2024, 66. 2025, 102. This is someone who has produced 2.4, 2, 1.7, 1.9, 1.8 PPR points per opportunity. It's not a matter of being efficient or not. It's a matter of he just wasn't getting the kind of opportunities he got this past season. I think after seeing this, it'd be silly for this, the coaching staff not to give him opportunities. He's a weapon out there for them, right? He's like a receiver, playing the tight end position, big body, big red zone threat. So yeah, I will be drafting him if he's out there late. He's one of those that I don't mind kind of gravitating towards in my draft if that's where I land. If he's my tight end 1 and I'm building around and I'm able to get him in round 10 plus, I feel like I'm going to be really good with my roster. So yeah, he's definitely someone I would take him over Schultz because I think there's a much higher ceiling and I think the floor is relatively safe. And like you mentioned, man, shout out to Jeff for pointing him out. We continued to ride that wave for multiple weeks as he was very cheap and very low owned as well. So, yeah, great season there for Juwan Johnson.
Oh, he was hanging around at 3,900,
yes.
4K for a long time. It was half the season.
Almost every week, hey, you could, yeah, he's firmly in play. Like maybe he wasn't a core 4 every week, but he was firmly in play each and every week. So yeah, definitely had a good season.
You know what my problem is with our conversations, Armando? It makes me want to draft tomorrow. Like, we have to wait all these months. We're not even at the Super Bowl yet. We have to wait all these months. I know we can get involved in best ball and everything, but man, my fantasy football drafts and auctions, man, and a lot of people feel this way too. I want it to be week 1 again tomorrow. It's like, that's a problem when you get into these conversations because there's so much fun. Already prognosticating. There are a few players I obviously didn't bring up because when it comes to guys like Kelsey and even Tyler Warren, who are up there too, Travis Kelsey, from a total point standpoint, having a top 5 finish, which is incredible. But now he's without Mahomes. We don't know what the deal is in Indy at this point when it comes to their QB situation. So we just don't know. But Armando, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure you follow all of Armando's work at fantasyguru.com. Football, basketball, you get it all. Mine and Marsal podcast in that Elite Plus section, where you can also find my Fensty's Basketball Diaries podcast. And with that, I'll be talking basketball with all y'all tomorrow, noon Eastern, same time, same place, same channel, right here, Fantasy Sports Daily on the Elite Plus network, powered by Fantasy Guru.